I'm on this evening to talk about victimization. Let's talk about a few things most that seemingly are usually normal, but this is like outside of the norm. All right, we know that people go through transitions in life. Say you're retired, you lost a loved one, things that affect your income. We also know that people have relationships. We're seeing a lot of people who are upset on Facebook and the such and different things where they are pretty much upset about their parents passing and they're sharing their grief and they're sobbing and such and having a hard time, going on without our parents, which is new to us because we've never been in this place before. So that happens as well. We also understand that some of us, our parents did not want to go into nursing homes, so we take care of them, which I think is admirable. And it is also very personal because the relationship that you have with your parents is like no other, and it's also between you and them. So the rest of the people are really outsiders, and most of the time it's treated as such. But for those of us that are also caregivers or caretakers, we're usually a lot more compassionate and a lot more caring. Okay, those that I've faced that to me does not seem normal. Um, when your parents are passing, if you have a relationship with your daughters and such, they usually want to leave you something pretty close. So there's an expectation of that relationship that you communicate, that you confide in one another, that you pray, all of those things happen. There's also the parent or the mom, when they know that they're sick and they're leaving, they may say, get these earrings, I want you to hold on to this, as a way of when you miss me to bring you comfort, maybe a cross, maybe a ring, whatever it is. They tend to think that, especially if they're really elderly, that it's going to be okay, that you're going to be able to take care of each other or take care of them until they pass at home. The finances are going to make it, and ideally this is great, but it doesn't always happen. So, in my instance, I found, in my situation, on how sick they get, it requires more money. I found that the electric bill went up. I found that we needed a way around more. I found that that we'd run out of food. This was like further along. It became more expensive. I found that though they had Medicaid or whatever have you, that the supplemental income we weren't able to keep it up. Bills started to pile in. So there are things that you don't foresee, but there is legal aid if nothing else, and the doctor will sometimes send you there to get the general power of attorney, get the medical power of attorney, because you're going to have to make choices, right? So as you're moving along, you're okay in the beginning because seemingly they're not doing so bad. But as the condition gets worse, because some of them are debilitating diseases, Alzheimer's and such, you're like, okay, so you're listening to the doctor, you might get upset initially, but your mind is still okay because to them they still are seemingly being your parent until they don't know who you are anymore. And it's sort of a little better at times because you've adjusted or seemingly adjusted depending on how quickly things happen. However, with the cost of everything and depending on whether they qualify for some things, other things they don't, I found, and maybe others have too, that people send you to social services and the such, they really don't care. That's how it came across in my case. You could have gotten this, you could have gotten that. Oh, well, the file was on the desk. I'm sorry, you're still calling me. My mom has passed. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't know your mom has passed. You find that if they were getting anything in, as far as pension, Social Security, that if you are not a child under 18 and have a disability, you cannot keep the checks after they pass. Unless you're a spouse and such, right? So these things are smacking you like, and you're like wondering, where's the children or the mother and the child's relationship? Where's the love? Like how is the caregiver going to keep going if they were the only person there taking care of them and their parents pass? And so you ultimately end up in evictions, you can end up in homelessness, and nobody cares. I found that those heirlooms are sometimes taken to a pawn shop because you're trying to pay for medication. You're running out of money. You're trying to find a way to get food. As the caregiver, if you go a couple of $100s on an EBT card, that's all you're going to get. So not realistic, right? And if you don't have a car, if you don't get a car, you're not going to be able to get around. So there are a lot of things that you need if you don't have a support system. Usually by the time the parents pass, the kids are so grieved, or whoever the caregiver was, because you're up all times of night. At that point, you are bathing them, you're doing everything, and you're literally watching them leave. the people who you deal with, say your car, say your jewelry, say whatever you're dealing with, have an attitude like to this. Oh well. In my case, I saw that, you know, are they also loan sharks or drug dealers, whatever they are, had no compassion, no empathy, and were pretty conniving and underhanded. And I couldn't help but think if I had owned this, it could be good if you didn't if you ran out of money, do whatever you needed to do pretty quickly just to live or pay a bill or whatever, your jewelry back and hold on to it. You have to struggle with the gifts that your mom leaves you as a love gift and not wanting to part with them, as opposed to not getting some medication that could end her life sooner, or your dad or whomever, or your children, then it's really inhumane. So victimization is real. I also found that if you're in school and you're trying to find a way of holding on to something and your expectation is that the people are going to show some empathy when it comes to your parents passing or on a job, they don't. What day is your mom going to pass? Oh, well, you just got you. You owe us money. We need you to pay. I don't even have a place to live. Well, I'm sorry. Come back when you're doing better. Even a Christian school. So it's, as I said, pretty inhumane. It was almost like they gloated. Well, we helped other people, and really did not take into consideration that there was real grief. And so even with them, you might be invited to go to a grief share. They ask you to pay. A place to stay, you're in hardship. You have student loans and people asking you for money. You're asking them to defer the loans. Your credit is dying. All these things have been set up. The government is asking you if they own anything, we're going to take it if you put them in a nursing home. I mean, compassion zero. And it's better probably to keep them at home, because the first thing you notice is if the doctor decides to put them in a nursing home, which he may or may not, depending on how sickly they are, is that you may go in and they look dirty, they look unkept, they look like they're not eating enough, they may try to hide snacks. Whereas if you keep the love that you have for your parents, you keep them clean, you keep them comfortable, they don't get that same kind of treatment because they're a stranger. They do have adult daycare. As I was saying, there's been a great deal of victimization. So you find yourself in a place where they're mostly women, which should be a place where you're safe. And in assuming that the same people who have made false accusations against you, gone to a church where you think that you're going to be safe, I have found that even in the church there's victim. Do you know that there are a lot of people in the church, who women especially, have testimonies that they have been raped by guys that be trusted, including leaders? Whether in a natural, I've heard people speak of spiritual rape. I've experienced it myself. I only heard, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay, which I am believing God for. Now, some of those people seemingly are sickness unto death. I've experienced it before, where somebody is an enemy, you don't know who they are, you don't know why. God tends to expose the enemy if you're quiet and allow him to do it. And so that's been going on. I have been someone who has been on jobs trying to work. I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, and I don't date, especially when I'm pursuing the call of God. I am for fellowshipping and getting to know each other and make friends, but I found that when you clearly specify that I'm not interested in a relationship, I just call God to ministry, that's my focus, they'll say okay, and go along with it, only to find out later that they really are more of a federal rapist, and not only that, but really a nutcase that would attack not only you. Unfortunately, this to some has included people in law enforcement, which is more dangerous because they have more access to who you are and where you are, etc. Ultimately, ending your job. So, is it worth it? Probably. Somebody could try to hurt you, and the people that you would know aren't available because with being victimized, and say myself being a leader or somebody in ministry that you would come to, you can't talk to the person that's actually trying to victimize you. It's understandable that people have authority, they can abuse it, but spiritual authority is usually a lot bigger, believe it or not. And you need a covering beyond career because you need somebody that can see beyond and somebody that God reveals the heart. So if somebody is trying to harm you, meet somebody who has a prayer life, somebody who's a prophet or an apostle or whoever else that will really have your best interest at heart and where God reveals the truth. Women that violent shelters, places, it's it's like one thing triggering another, whereas it takes God Himself. And some really are wanting to get help, wanting to get better. Sometimes you have corruption within the town as everything. All the hard work, the bad apple to destroy it. You have people who are moving, trying to get their kids in a place, trying to, you know, somebody that you can respect. Like years ago, we had teachers that's extremely hard to find now, so they're trying to homeschool. You have places that you call a home, but there's no honor in it, so